Sharpnack.
Here.
This meeting is being recorded.
Oh, now.
Commissioner Blake Hollingsworth.
Present.
Commissioner Richard Savage.
Here.
All right. Okay. Let's go on to item number 2, agenda review. Is there anything that needs to be changed to this agenda? I don't hear anybody jumping up and down about it, so I think we're good to go, move on. We'll go to partner reports. Let's hear from Bruce. What you got for us today?
Thank you, Chairman. You know, hey, I just don't have much. Curtis gave me a 1 or 2 line email. If he were on, he would talk about the Inflation Reduction Act and how that's going to bring more funds to the state through NRCS, and that's leading to some staffing challenges. We're working hard trying to add staff to help deliver, implement those funds. I could address engineering workloads, but those are just part of our bigger picture. It's the same across the board for us as an agency. We're trying to staff up and help, as I say, help deliver and implement those funds. I would say that we have a lot of projects. It's a lot of what we call our big water projects that have really been helped and with the partnership with y'all and the WACPA funds. We know of several of examples of projects that probably wouldn't have happened, at least when they did happen, had it not been for WACPA funds coming in and helping our funds out, augmenting the project. And that goes both ways, quite frankly. So, I'll leave it at that. And unless there are questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them anyway.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Bruce? All right. Well, thanks for the report, Bruce. I like condensed versions of Curtis's reports.
Yeah.
Good job.
If Curtis was on, he'd still be talking for sure.
Oh, well, yeah. We like Curtis. We like Curtis a lot. Travis, what you got for us today?
I did the Mitch Silvers thing. Sorry. Hello, Commission and Chairman. Thank you for the time. The main thing I want to touch on, of course, it'll be a year get up to speed here, but the Hair on Fire issue is, of course, the conference, and we're making good progress there. In fact, I think the online registration for the conference, which is 7th through the 9th of November, it's at the Riverside Hotel, which they say is Boise, but I still call it Garden City. So it's there 7th through the 9th of November. And registration should be online tomorrow. So wait till the latter half of the day, please, to try to register if you're coming. And there'll be of course, the conference agenda will be on there with the caveat that reserve the right to change it. But the general conference agenda will be also on the website, the association's website. So registration agenda tomorrow afternoon. Look for that. And I know I've gotten questions about, when is, for example, the joint listening session, the Association Commission joint listening session, things like that. You'll see it on there. And I know that the commission and the association still will need to talk about, an agenda because on Tuesday the 7th, there'll be a joint directors and association directors and commission meeting. And so, Delwyn and Loretta, whoever chairman, we'll talk about what that looks like. So just, again, this is just going to be the basic pieces of the conference when you see it online. So happy to take any questions on that, but we'll have the display registration form available. We'll have sponsorship information. We've already gotten about $2,500 in business sponsorships raised so far. And of course, we'll have all the registration and schedule materials online tomorrow as well. So I'm probably missing a few things there. But right now, as far as speakers, we've confirmed ISDA's administrator, Chanel Tewalt, and we've confirmed others. The request has gone into Governor Little. I think we're in good shape there to be our keynote on Wednesday night of the conference. And we're also going to invite the new Department of Water Resources Director, Matt Weaver, to attend as well. So that's no confirmation with him yet. He's pretty busy with water issues, but we'll hope to get him confirmed. And of course, we'll have tours. Look for those. And we've really the feedback I got in the short month and a half I've been on staff here on board, the feedback we got was to really condense it. It's been long, apparently in previous years. And so, literally this thing starts, if you want to talk about the general session, it starts on Tuesday at, basically 6 p.m. with the banquet and gets over at Thursday, a day and a half later at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So it's condensed down. I'm sure there'll be complaints about that, but hopefully there'll be a lot more positive comments about the condensed conference schedule. Enough about that. There's other issues out there, but we can save it for later in the interest of time. So any questions, let me know.
All right. Anybody have any questions for Travis?
I do. Hi, Travis. This is Karen Sharpneck with the commission. Is that okay, Eric?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, Travis, have you all started to think about what the legislative session is going to be and any of maybe your targets or, something that you're going to bring forward outside of just supporting the commission's budget?
Yeah, and again, it's a resolution process. So what districts bring to us generally is, grassroots up kind of process. So I know we've gotten a resolution in from the Latah district, and there's talk of the equity issue for districts. Equity dollars. Obviously, WACPA, will be a legislative priority. The base budget that Delwyn shared with me what you all submitted to Department of Finance, DFA, or DFM, excuse me. DFA is the Dairy Farmers of America. So those are always things that we're going to be lobbying for, but also Representative Dan Garner of Southeast Idaho has contacted me with his draft legislation that has to do with, the election in terms of those in the districts. So that's a work in progress. Also, the other issue that I've met with the Farm Bureau on is and Farmland Trust is ag lands protection. So Braden Jensen with Farm Bureau introduced that, the concept of it at the end of this past session. So it was the end of March. Braden made presentations to, I think, House Ag and Senate Ag on kind of what Farm Bureau was thinking about that. And now the goal is for Farm Bureau and AFT Idaho chapter to introduce this in the next session in 2024. There is a conservation district component to their language, but they're still working out what that language looks like. So Braden and I met last week about that. So that's the world that I know of, Commissioner Sharpneck. So there'll obviously be other things coming up, I'm sure.
Wonderful. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Travis. Anybody else have any questions for him?
Chairman, can I make a comment about you for a second?
Go ahead.
So on screen, when you actually talk, you have deer antlers coming out of your head. We just wanted to
like
let you
that?
know. We do. I do.
Yeah. See if I get them right there. See what's in there.
It's kind of the jackalope effect there,
Well, I figured I'd change it up today. Usually I sit at my bar or I sit down in my office, and I thought, well, today I'm going to just, I'm going to sit at my kitchen table and look out at the valley and have, my background. Yeah, the wife's got bovine on the wall too. And I know this this looks like a hallway here, but it's a mirror, so it doesn't go anywhere. But yeah, this is one of the sets of antlers I have around here, so I got to have a little bit of say in our decor. Anyways,
Thank you for that. I needed to say something. That's all I was doing was looking at the antlers.
Carla already pointed that out to me when we were waiting in the waiting room. So thank you. All right. Is there anybody from Idea On that has a report to give us? All right. Hearing none, we'll move on to item number 4, reports. Commissioners and staff, anybody need to bring anything here today? No?
I'll
Go ahead,
just,
Wendy.
okay, I'll throw out something. We're having trouble. Well, Carrie, our admin at Central Bingham, I had quite a time finding someone to do a government entity audit. And I just wondered if that's coming up in other districts because of all the WACWA money, and we might need to address that issue at some point.
Okay. I haven't heard anything yet, but that doesn't mean that it's not happening. So thanks for bringing that to our attention. Anybody else? Anybody staff has to bring anything? I know Delwyn's out hiking around somewhere. I saw pictures of him on the webs.
Yeah. He's still live. I heard from him yesterday. Back
Well,
to
good.
Wendy, back to Wendy's comment. Do you guys have the list of approved accountants that do that in your area? I believe there was a statewide list at one time.
She found someone.
Okay.
I'm just wondering if that's happening across the state.
I haven't heard it, but I'll keep my ears open
Okay.
on that.
All right. Well, let's move on to number 5 here, and water assessment and sustainability project for the Treasure Valley. Mr. Myers.
You guys have a PowerPoint?
Yeah.
It might be easier to follow.
Oh boy.
Oh, sure.
Sure. Let's see. We're gonna have to do this on your computer. Well, no, because you're not. Are you sharing? Try your audio again.
Well,
Because this is you still.
oh, so it'd be on this one here.
Because I can do it on mine and then share my screen.
Her computer's not on, it's this one.
So
Oh,
that's
that
her
one.
there, right? Because I'm not connected to that.
Yes, it'd be this.
Oh, it's
this
that one. Oh, sorry, you meant Julie's. I think I will share that screen. We better do it on mine. Sorry, Julie. I'll share my screen.
Be the second one on there. Well, while this is coming up, first of all, thanks for having us. I'm Mike Myers. I'm the Boise River Water Master. This is Daniel Hope. He's Deputy Water Master at the Water District. We're here today to talk to you about a drain project we're looking at here in the Treasure Valley. And we got a little presentation we're going to go over. And I think you'll find it interesting on the back end of this presentation of some of the solutions we're looking at as well. So as soon as that comes up, we'll start it.
Oh, you guys have to let me be host, though. I don't get people in the waiting room.
That's weird.
Yeah, Daniel Hope.
HLHO.
HOKE.
Thank you.
Okay, so let me see if I can share my screen.
So while they're pulling this up, I'll do just a quick little background of what the Water District does for those who don't know. We are tasked with tracking, monitoring, and administering all the surface water rights off the Boise River. That includes every diversion from Lucky Peak to Parma. and it includes every diversion that feeds the reservoirs above. So everything, Idaho City, Placerville, Centerville, all the water rights are, we're tasked with tracking all those. So that's the majority of our time is spent in tracking the following water rights. Every diversion has a water right, has a usage amount, a date of usage amount, and a priority date. So the priority date is dictated by natural flow and demand on the river. So as natural flow drops, demand comes up, the priority dates drop, and that's where we're tasked with tracking the flows and turning down, mitigating people that need to be turned down based on where we're at with water flows. So yeah, so where this project came in, we'll just start with this. Treasure Valley Water Users are a big sponsor of this. They've Roger Batt, the executive director, set up this meeting. He's been helpful in all this and getting us set up and moving and meetings with you guys and a lot of the cities and stuff like that. We can go to the next slide. Here's the watershed from Arrow Rock all the way down to Parma. It's just kind of showing the main drains that run through our system, which is why we're here today to talk about the drainage. This is kind of an overview of all of that. Go to the next slide. So here's the irrigation entities in the valley. These are their outlines of the districts from, like I said, from Boise down to Parma there. So just kind of, so brief history is kind of what we'll go over here first. Next slide, yeah. Here's the canals that run through each entity. Obviously, it's all the canals, they service all the water through the valley. It's kind of their main purpose. The next slide is all the drains. Most of that, they act as both. They deliver water and they act as return flow to the lower river. This is kind of the overlap of how they are with the canal systems. So this is this slide here shows obviously the urbanization of the valley. Everybody sees it and knows it. You see what it was there. That's Houston and McMillan between, I can't remember the roads there, but it essentially went from all ag to all housing. And so we're trying to track how that is affecting us in the drains. Because obviously water usage on a farm field is different than a subdivision, different than anything else. So that's one of the best examples there is to show how quickly everything's changed. So, next slide. Yeah, this is Treasure Valley Water Users Association. They spend a lot of time on education and outreach for the irrigation season. You can see that in the slide here. It's just kind of a quick little intro for them. Next slide. So this is our project here. This is just, it's got all the pictures from the slides, and this is the project we've started with them. Call it a TV WASP for short. It's kind of a mouthful of the project, but what it is, and Mike will get into this a little bit more, is a way of understanding how the drains are changing and why they're changing, and how that affects the flow of the river. Everything below Caldwell on the Boise River is supplied 100% from drain return flows. So water released out of Lucky Peak does not make it past Caldwell. Everything there is return flow from the drains. So as we see with urbanization, we need to know how it affects the drains and the flows so we can better manage the lower Boise River. So go to the next slide. So what prompted this? This is our green bar sheet. This is our accounting we do when irrigation is in. This shows all the reaches and the flows from Twin Springs all the way down to Parma in the Boise drainage. Without getting into too much detail, it has a natural flow component. It shows a stored flow component. What's coming out of the reservoirs versus natural flow. The far right column is the water right. That's the priority date we're serving. That shows which water rights are in priority and which ones aren't. What we're seeing here essentially is, as you can see in the title, we were 150 CFS short in the river on this particular day. What we see as far as actual flow in the river, natural flow remaining was 150 short of making deliveries that day. On this particular day, we didn't know this was happening until after the fact because there was flow augmentation water from the Bureau. And we're tasked with taking that from the reservoirs into the Snake and then obviously to the ocean. So we were actually delivering flow augmentation water to irrigation entities in the reach from Caldwell to Notice when we were short water. So we didn't actually dry up the river, but if the flow aug water hadn't been there, we would have.
Mhm.
And this was a very late year for running flow aug. It's very uncommon for flow aug water to be in that time of year. And in speaking with the Bureau, we're not supposed to do that. We can't do that again. Their water has to remain in the channel of the river. So we didn't know we were short, and we ended up delivering their water, which prevented us from drying up the river. But in reality, we were 150 CFS short of making deliveries on this day. And this event actually happened for about a week. And at the time, we run our accounting a week late, and so we didn't know about it until after the fact. With our automation project we've done now, we have daily accounting. So these sort of things we can catch in real time as we can. That was the first project we did. This drain project is an extension of that to create real-time monitoring for the drains and the river to prevent this situation. So are there any questions? I'm kind of talking fast here. So if there's anything, just holler out. So okay, I can go to the next slide.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm just curious about how many acres, are irrigated in this system.
Oh, total acres irrigated. I am not sure on that one. That does kind of change from day to day. The total surface area we cover in the Basin 63 is just under 5,000 square miles. So irrigatable acres, it's I don't know that exact number, but it's a lot. I'm not sure the exact number though.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Can I ask a quick question too? This is Wendy Pratt.
Mhm.
Good.
If I'm looking at a drain, or I guess that's the same thing as a return flow, what can I tell? Does it look different than the actual canal?
Not yes, a little bit. It's not too different. They're going to be a little bit deeper, and they're going to be in terms. They're kind of average size, so it's kind of hard to tell. I mean, you can tell the difference between a drain and what the New York Canal is. As you get to smaller drainages, you're not going to see that difference, but they're going to be about the same size. A lot of the irrigation ditches are going to have diversions and/or head gates off them, where you see people diverting water off them. Most of the drains, there's a few that do have it, but for the most part, they don't have diversions off them. They're just flows, and they're what the irrigation ditches and fields would drain into. So it's kind of difficult to know the difference because some of them do look very similar, and some of them are used as the same functionality as well. So I hope that kind of answered your question.
Yeah, I assume they were put in later.
Yeah.
I mean, okay.
Yeah, we do actually had some history slides that aren't on this presentation, but I could give you a brief reason why the drains are in place. Obviously, when the valley was founded, they started with the New York, and they started flood irrigating and turning the desert that it is into irrigable land. But it didn't take very long for the ground to become alkali. The water table rose. There had nowhere for the water to drain. So the Bureau came in the early 1900s and dug all the drains to relieve the water flow. Their initial use and use to this day is to relieve the groundwater and water. Then they drained it all back into the river. So they continue to irrigate because they got to a point where they couldn't irrigate anymore because the water table was so high everywhere. So they're Bureau drains, and that's their main function is to relieve groundwater and to return water off the fields down to a different diversion or down to the river.
Okay, that helps. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, lessons from June 30th. We would approach zero flow between Caldwell and Notice if this is carried outside flow log. All of the deliveries downstream of Caldwell rely on these return flows and the groundwater inflows. Premise of this project is to better understand future drain flows and groundwater flows from the Boise River. Downstream water rights would have been shorted, and state law would require administering water rights in the lower Boise and its tributaries. And the drains are considered tributaries to the river. So they would fall into the same category as those diversions. So,
Yeah, next slide.
yes. So this here is a chart that HCR, one of our partners, put together for us. This is the mean monthly flows of all the gauge drains together. These are the gauge drains that USGS does currently. You can see in there Eagle Drain, 15-mile, Mason, which is one of the most highly developed for the last couple of years, and all the drains that contribute down to the river. And you can see, especially during the summer months, the drop as it goes on from year to year, all below the 5-year average. You see July drops every year, August drops. These are the average flows returning to the river dropping every single year. And, you know, it kind of levels off in the winter when we don't have the irrigation, but you see where it's most important in the irrigation months, in the middle of summer, they're all, for the most part, dropping and dropping fast. And this is all the actual gauge drains currently. So we can go to the next slide, please. This is Mason Creek. This is the one that's hitting us the hardest, becoming very heavily developed. And you see, this is the one that's crashing the hardest too from year to year. This is all the data we currently have when they started gauging the drains. But even in that short time frame, you see every year the return flows to the river are dropping and dropping hard. So.
Mr. Chairman, this is David Perkins. Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Do we have, or do you have procedures in place to identify junior appropriators to curtail the possibility of running the river dry in the absence of rainwater inflow?
That's a, Mr. Chairman, this is Mike Myers. That's a kind of a loaded question. So the short answer is yes, but most of the water rights off of the drains are considered wastewater. So if the wastewater isn't there, obviously there's no curtailment to be had. But we do have, we have policies in place to curtail and administer junior users if this happens again. So yes.
Isn't that the solution to some of the problem with the lack of inflow and cutting off juniors earlier?
It is part of the solution. I think as we get a little further into this slide, you'll see why, or this presentation, you'll see why it's not the ultimate solution. But yes, curtailment administration is definitely on the table.
Does the public awareness campaigns about water usage limit or modify the behavior of the inflow because people aren't using their sprinklers as much or flushing their toilets as much or whatever of those things? Is that a consideration that you're taking into account?
Yeah, I will say that everything's on the table as far as mitigation practices. I heard a guy say not too long ago, conservation on the upper Boise River is a pipe dream because all we do is affect our downstream users. Water released out of Lucky Peak can be used up to 9 times before it returns to the Snake River. So anything we do conservation wise upstream does have an effect downstream. I'm not saying it's not a good thing, but we just have to be really careful in what we do because it affects, because our water's so reused, it affects downstream users a lot. So
thank you.
You bet.
Good questions.
We can go to the next slide.
So this here is where we looked for our culprit on that particular day where we were 150 CFS short. And you could see here, we have our 5-year average on that particular day and actual flow on that particular day. And you see the differences. Mason Creek obviously being the big one, Middleton Drain, North Slough. We can remove the Dixie and Conway because they return downstream of that. But even removing those, we find basically all the water we were down that day. Yeah, it's pretty
So
telling.
I have a question. So, and this is kind of Greek for me because I don't try to pump water in, I pump water out. So are you trying to figure out where this water's going? Is that what your project's trying to figure out now?
Yeah, we're going to hit that in the next slide. I think
Okay.
the next slide is where I take over. And I'll answer your question right now. So we can go on to the next one if you don't mind.
Okay.
The project, what we're going to do is we're going to install about 50 monitoring stations up and down the drains, particularly in Mason Creek and 5 Mile drainage. And what we're trying to understand is how urbanization and land use changes affects drain flow. And one of the two reasons we started this, one, we wanted to give land use planners better information, and not only land use planners, but irrigation entities, better information on how to better manage the water on that land and what effects does conversion have, say, piping canals, putting concrete over a 40-acre plot. We want to know how fast or what effects that has on the drains in terms of how fast and how much water we lose per a 40-acre plot. I'm just using 40 acres as an example. We're probably not going to get that granular, but if we can better determine how fast these drains are diminishing, we give downstream users basically a timeline on what they can do to go look for water or look for mitigation measures when and if these drains go to zero. Like Daniel said, the drains were dug to relieve water. They're a man-made water source, and everything below Caldwell for the last 100 years, we've come to rely on that as our primary water source down there. And we're talking millions and millions of dollars of ag land down there and pasture and all that, and the hops. And I mean, there's a ton of effect on that. So what we're looking to do is monitor the drains and basically come up with a mass balance on the lower Boise River. So we want to know what's coming in, what's going out, and try to determine with all this information, come up with a trend analysis and give that information to who can benefit from it, including the water district, because we have to administer and manage those water rights down there. So we partnered with Sawtooth Law and HDR to do this. Phase one is going to consist of installing all of our telemetry units. Thank you, Daniel. All of our sites, and start to begin collecting that data. So what we're looking for is we're looking for large drains and the sub drains. We're going to monitor the flows on the diversions, the key canal crossings. We are already coordinating with water managers such as Nampa Meridian, Pioneer Irrigation, and Riverside Irrigation to get into their systems and better measure it, manage it, and see where the water's going. Then we'll develop a mass balance on the inflows and the diversions, and then we'll determine off that mass balance what's not being measured. Now, what that'll tell us is how much of that is groundwater, how much of that is surface water inflows, and then we want to complete the drain flow trend analysis by quantifying the changes in the drains, evaluate correlation with change in land use management and water use. So that's phase one. It's a mouthful. There's a lot to it. I'll try to better explain it as we go. We can go to the next slide.
Chairman, may I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Your phase one, what's the timeline?
Phase one's timeline is 1 year. We've actually already started. We installed our first site yesterday. And we hope to have all of our telemetry in before the start of next water season. We'll probably have the majority of it in the next 2 months. So we're hoping that by this time next year, we'll have our phase one data almost complete for the water year 2024. And then we'll start to analyze it. This is a 4 to 5 year project.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. So this slide is for phase two. Phase two, we are in the process of collecting funding. We're looking at funding options through the Bureau of Reclamation, IDWR. We have a bunch of funding partners that we'll show you later on down in this slide or this presentation. But phase two is correlate changes in land use operations, climate availability, and groundwater to change in flows. Evaluate flow records to quantify historic and ongoing changes. And then obviously we want to develop models to estimate the changes as a function of influential factors. So that's the big thing for phase two, is developing that model, and then project changes in future drain flows and manage water delivery accordingly. Next slide. Phase three, this is the one that gets me excited, the mitigation plan. So phase three, we thought we were going to start after all the analytics, but we've actually started right now. We're looking at anything. So some of the mitigation options are uncontracted space in Lucky Peak. There's about 40,000 acre feet of uncontracted water up there we're looking at. That one's going to be a long shot to try to get. We're looking at re-regulation ponds off the drains. This is one I'm really excited about. 15-mile drain fluctuates up to 80 CFS a day. And by developing a re-reg pond off of 15-mile creek, we can level those flows, which level the flow in the river, which gives us more deliverable water in the river. Not only that, it's got a ton of other benefits, water quality, wetlands, all that kind of stuff. But because of who we represent, we have to really try to stick to water supply. But I think anybody who sees a re-regulation pond off a drain can see the benefits in that. So, so what we're doing in phase three is obviously looking for the mitigation plans, trade-off cost benefits analysis, and then identify any alternatives, and then obviously implementation. So we're starting phase three a little prematurely because some of these things can take years to develop. Off-stream storage, trying to get water from the Bureau out of a reservoir is no easy task. So we're gonna go ahead and start phase three now. Next slide, please. So what we like to share is obviously everything costs money, right? So phase one costs, we're looking at about, what was it? About $300,000 for phase one. We've got $75,000 in transducers, recording, our telemetry equipment, basically $1,500 per 50 sites. Wages to install them. We have to upgrade our measuring equipment on these drains. These drains don't have weirs or anything to measure, so we have to get out there and physically measure them with a ADCB Doppler boat or flow trackers or price AA meter, stuff like that. So we invested in a Doppler boat. So the initial startup costs are $131,000, and then annual maintenance year over year to maintain all of this. You can see there about $10,000 in maintenance. The data collection and storage is obviously pretty expensive. And one of the really exciting things that we're doing is we want to develop a website with this, where we're going to put every diversion on the Boise River and all of these drains, their flow rates on a website, so that anybody can go click on a diversion or a drain and see what the flow is in real time. So that's our telemetry, gives us real-time data, and then we'll just incorporate that into a website. So if you want to know what the 5 miles flowing up at, McDermott, you'll be able to click on that and just see what the flow is in the drains. Or if you want to see what the Nampa Meridian's pulling into their canal, you can just click on that. And then we'll use that for management at Water District 63, and then also use that as our tool for our analytics as well. And then obviously wages to do the project for the measuring. Daniel and I will spend about 2 days a week measuring these drains with our Doppler boats and our other equipment. It's going to be very time consuming. So the estimated annual maintenance is about $130,000. Potential funding sources, local water management agencies, stakeholders, state and federal grant loan programs. So phase one, if you go to the next slide. Okay, this is the project schedule. So phase one, we obviously have started. We've had several partners. We've got Water District 63, which is us. We chipped in about $71,000 for this. Treasure Valley Water Users Association did about $15,000. Flood Control 10. They donated $10,000 to the project. And the big one was Idaho Water Resource Board. We applied for a grant through them. They gave us $155,000 for the project. And then Ada County, Canyon County, City of Boise, City of Meridian, and the City of Nampa have all donated funds to this project as well. So we've got a lot of broad buy-in for the project, which is really exciting. Everybody sees the benefit of not only the water quality, but I think more importantly to our aspect is the quantity. One thing I failed to mention is the users below Caldwell that rely on this water, annually they use about 234,000 acre feet of water a year, which is the equivalent to Anderson Ranch Reservoir or close to it. Or Arrow Rock, not Anderson, sorry, Arrow Rock Reservoir. So if you look at, if the drains ever go to zero, and the amount of water we need to make up to the downstream users is about the amount of water Arrow Rock Reservoir holds. So if you think about it like that, we have to come up with a whole nother reservoir eventually, which is daunting to say the least. Where do we come up with 234,000 acre feet of water? A lot of it's going to be, to your question, the curtailment. There's going to be people shorted, obviously. But is there anything we can do in the meantime to maybe prolong this or find other water supplies, either through the water bank or the rental pool, extra storage in the reservoirs, off-stream storage in the drains? We're looking at all of this. So here on the screen, you can see the project schedule, and I won't go through it. It's been up on the screen for a few minutes, so you can kind of look through it. But basically, this will take us through 2027. And hopefully, sometime in mid-phase 2, we're going to have some pretty good data that will tell us, maybe we get a good idea of when these drains will start to affect us to where we have to do heavy administration, or that these people need to start looking for other water somewhere else. So that's the project schedule. We should be wrapped up with, like I said, with phase 1 here pretty soon as far as the installation. So we're excited about that. And I think that's the last slide. Obviously, we want to, Mr. Chairman, Commission, we want to thank you for your time. I know Roger set up this meeting. I haven't had a chance to really visit with any of you, but we are still looking for funding partners. If that's something you guys would be interested in, obviously you'll want to talk amongst yourselves, and there's questions, I'm sure. Feel free to reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to answer any questions and try to deep dive into the project a little more if you want. So that's what we're here for today. And again, we really appreciate your time for letting us in.
Chairman, can I ask a question or two?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so first, are you a 501c3? Or what are you? Because
we
you're
are
getting donations, you're
Yeah,
getting
we're
grants.
a quasi-state agency, so we are tax exempt.
Okay. And second, I see your numbers. What is the total that you're looking at fundraising? I saw phase 1, phase 2, which you're
Yeah.
looking for.
This
You
is
don't
just
have
for
a phase 3 on how much is that's going to cost.
Yeah,
What is the
so-
total amount you want to bring in?
Yeah, so phase 3, I'll start there, is going to be determined on phase 1 and 2. We don't know that because we don't know where we're going. Phase 2 is going to be about $1 million. We have not started funding are looking for funding. Too much there. We've started applying for grants through the Bureau of Reclamation's Water Smart program, but we're not really in phase 2 step yet. What we're looking for is a little more funding in phase 1. We're about $60,000 to $70,000 short of complete funding for it. So that's what we're looking for, is any help with that. So yeah, does that answer?
Would
That's it. Thank you.
I got just a question towards Loretta, I guess. Would any of this be considered under a WACPA grant? Do you know?
So my interpretation of WACPA at this time is that it's more on the BMP installation. And once the planning and analyzing is done, that's when we come in with the BMPs.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's my
That's
interpretation.
what we've been told.
Yeah, that's what we've been told as well.
Phew.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, this is David Perkins. Can I ask another couple questions?
Go ahead.
I was just wondering, after listening to talking about funding, have you contacted DEQ to seek some funding for water mitigation, especially with the ponds and the wetland issues?
We will be reaching out to DEQ when we hit phase 3 and start looking at that pretty hard. But for phase 1 and the analytics, we're looking for more local partners. But I'm sure the DEQ and stuff will come during later phase 2, phase 3.
And then, given the statewide benefit that could come from such a project, have you thought about talking to the Idaho State Legislature for funding with legislative funding?
Yep. We did approach that early on. We basically got told to go through the Idaho Water Resource Board. But the state has been real. They're very aware of this project. They've been very supportive. We have met with legislatures. It's not off the table, but we're trying to stay in our lane for funding and just go through the Idaho Water Resources Board and not do direct appropriation.
And then, just as a complete aside, knowing that you had those problems back in June 22, does the Idaho Department of Water Resources have minimum stream flow rights to the Boise River that need to be met?
So, yeah, that's a great question. The answer is no. The Bureau of Reclamation has 150,000 acre feet of storage in the reservoirs for stream flow maintenance in the winter. But under Idaho statute, the way the Boise works, it can go to zero flow.
Wow.
Wow.
Based on supply.
All right. Any more questions for these two gentlemen?
I have a comment question, I guess. Wendy Pratt again. The things that you'll learn looking at what land use changes and like groundwater changes, climate, what that does to surface water, the connection, it's just got such implications to the rest of us. I'm over in eastern Idaho. So even if you're really analyzing drains, I think it's the same. It would have the same in stream flows otherwise. So I hope that there's a way to share that information.
Yeah, and good point. Thank you for bringing it up. I missed that. This information will be shared at the end. So what we'll do is after we collect phase 1, we'll evaluate it with HDR, Sawtooth Law, and the Advisory Committee of Water District 63. And then after we've evaluated it, we'll make that information public to specifically our funding partners, but I'm sure that the information will be out to everybody. It'll go to our funding partners first, and then obviously anybody can look at it. Another thing I failed to mention was we're using this data that we're collecting to better refine the groundwater study that was recently done here in the Treasure Valley too. We're working with department and USGS. Yeah, USGS. No, NRCS, sorry. To help better refine the groundwater study that was done as well. Because one of the problems with the groundwater study is it did not take into account the drain flows in the summer. They just used winter base flows. So that groundwater study is kind of skewed. It's not as granular as it could be. So we're working with those folks, and hopefully we can implement this into that as well.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. Yes, Joan.
I'm sorry, my voice is not really good. I'm recovering from a second round of COVID within 2 weeks. So, but I do want to mention that one way that maybe not the commission as such, but the districts are certainly involved. We have been asked by, Mike, I am supervisor in the Ada district. And so we've been asked by the county to be involved in working with this type of this project. I'm personally not familiar with all of the details, but I appreciate this presentation very much. But the county is, I don't know about other counties, but the county should be looking to its districts for support and help. And there may be mechanisms through working with the districts to, again, support this is a very important analysis. So I'm sorry, I'm a little bit off in being able to speak well, but just a comment. And the other thing that the county, Ada County, of course, is very highly developed, and the county is itself looking for more information in looking at their requirements for development, and gets to the whole ag land preservation issue as well, looking at the availability of water and the effects of development on the water. And it's giving the county additional tools to work with as it makes its decisions on developments.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'll say that we weren't able to put our presentation or our supporters on the slideshow today, but Ada County is our second largest supporter for this project. They're through the ARPA funds gave us $50,000 for this. So Ada County is really interested in this and hoping to get some good information at the back end. So.
All right. Well, I want to thank you too for your presentation. Very, very informative. And we have quite an issue coming up with the urbanization of our productive grounds. And it's always been on my radar. So I appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to number 6, our administrator's report.
Thank you. Chairman Olson, can we take
Go
a
ahead.
2-minute technical break? I want to plug in my laptop because if it dies.
Okay.
And my computer's recognizing. So I wanted to see if it works. Is that on?
I could hit the thumb drive.
Oh, yeah.
Nope, we're gonna use it.
Actually, if you guys want to keep.
Eject that right quick. Sorry, I got to close out the report.
I'll take a walk. Really appreciate y'all having
Thank
us.
you guys. It was very interesting.
Have a great day.
Thanks for bearing with us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for coming.
No problem.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, reach out with any questions or anything.
Oh, do you want to pause recording for a couple minutes?
Presentation for the district.
I don't know how to do that.
In the door.
Okay, let's see if I can.
Say that we're doing that this year and they're there. And we'll have it for each of the districts.
Okay. I will bring that up. I better plug my computer in.
It's right here. So just hit like the arrows.
Well, how are you?
Well, it's
That's Sources Conservationist, Southwest Idaho.
Being recorded.
The announcement for this vacant position formerly held by Joe Peterson is being advertised through September 25th. After the announcement closes, DHR will score the applicants and provide us with the list of those qualified for the position. I hope to have a suitably hungry, humble, and smart person hired to fill this position before the end of October. I hope you can hear Delwyn in that. And yes, we missed Joe, our tech person. I apologize again for the technical difficulties this morning. I think Joe was a tech wizard. Natural Resources Conservationist Magic Valley. Dustin Diaz, who has served the last 2 years as a natural resource conservationist stationed in Jerome, has accepted a position with the Natural Resources Conservation Service in Jerome. As the chair of one of the district Dustin serves described it, Dustin came to us greener than green, and it has been a lot of fun watching him develop into a competent and confident conservationist. His last day is going to be October 6th. We've already announced the upcoming vacancy. It closes September 27th and hope to hire his replacement by early November. And yes, I'd like to say we will miss Dustin. He was a great asset to our team. ISCD Fall 2023 division meetings. Each of the 6 divisions has set the date for their fall 2023 meetings. The conservation districts that make up each division appreciate it when the commissioner representing their division participates in these meetings. So you are encouraged to attend if you are able. Division meetings are an excellent opportunity to build relationships with district supervisors and their staff. There is generally time for visiting before the meeting, during the meal, and even in the parking lot after the meeting, which I have done. The division meeting schedule follows. As soon as possible, please let Julie know if you can attend your division's meeting. Staff will RSVP and pay for your meal. As the at-large member of your board, Commissioner Hollingsworth will need to let staff know which division meeting he chooses to attend. So then there's the schedule of division meetings. And I know last year you'll notice that the commission started taking around door prizes because we have never done that. But thanks to Melanie and Crystal, got that going last year. So I just wanted to share this year's door prizes Melanie worked hard on. So I'll have her.
Oh, I love the decoration.
Yeah. So it's a thermos mug with a little bow filled with candy.
It's supposed to be grass.
Grass.
Oh, okay.
I'll hold it up to the camera.
I love it.
And it's filled with chocolate. We did something similar last year. The reason the raffle tickets or the tickets are on the back is because some of the districts formally have a door prize program and some don't. So we scrambled last year for, it kind of surprised everybody on how to give away the door prize. So this year there's 50 tickets. That's just a tearaway for a drawing. And if we don't use the tickets, we'll bring them back and use them next year. And they're blue. And so it gave the blue-green logo, right? You see that, right? Okay.
See it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Cool.
Chairman, may I ask a question as well? So I wanted to ask the group which district would be best suited for me to attend. That's my question.
You are welcome to come to ours in 4. It's usually very long, like 5-6 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to kind of, we start about 2-ish and we get done about 8. So just as an FYI, some are, I know, are quicker, but you're welcome to come to ours.
3 has good food.
Ours doesn't. So yeah, don't if that's on tape.
Rub and barbecue.
I would say, Blake, it's totally up to you. You this is a new position for us as well. So, you know, whatever floats your boat, really, wherever you want to travel to go to a one. I wouldn't expect to go to all of them, but yeah, I would just pick one.
I was just curious.
Chairman Blake.
You want to listen to?
Go ahead, Joan.
Sorry. Sorry, every time I talk, I can't talk. I am not going to be at the Division 3 meeting. And it's always, I think, a very good meeting. Hold on. I I didn't know I was this bad. But you might enjoy Division 3. We have a good participation, really interesting, and I'm sorry. I'm not going to say anything more. I can't talk. So,
All right, thanks, Joan. Well, that might be one to maybe that'd be one to go in kind of. It's pretty close, and maybe that's the one you want to go to, Lake, and kind of fill in for Joan if she's not going to be there.
Mr. Chairman, Eric.
Go ahead, Travis.
Yeah, I'm sure you all are aware, but there's still 2 divisions that have yet to determine the time of day and the specific location of their division meetings that I'm aware of anyway. And that's Division 1, North Idaho. They have the date selected, and Eric, you may already know more than me, but the date selected, but not like the time of that day and not the location, according to Tom Daniel, to me. And then also Division 4, which is, it's going to be in Fairfield, but not sure what time and where at in Fairfield. So there's probably not too many choices in Fairfield.
I know Division 1's going to be in Plummer. I'm not quite sure where. Carla could probably speak to that. I believe it's at 10 o'clock in the morning. And it's with Benoit. They're the sponsor. There's the, I guess, sponsor for it this year or whatever. So I know that much, but I can have one of the ladies get to you and let you know on all the details.
Okay.
Eric, I'm sorry,
ahead.
Mr. Chairman.
Go
I
ahead, Carla.
just am sending out an email to Ree this morning to touch base with her to let her know that we need to get that out into everybody's pocket of where and what time. Like you said, I know it's going to be in Plummer, but I'm not 100% sure of the venue, so I don't want to give you wrong information right now.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. So, and I know Plummer's a big metropolis. It's really hard to find where you're going. So,
yeah.
Thank you.
Chairman, may
Go
I
ahead.
make a comment for Division 4?
Go ahead.
I just reached out. I will find out, as of last week, they still didn't have a location for Fairfield or a time. So as soon as I find out, Trevor, I'll also let you know, if that's okay. And then I'll inform the commission.
Yeah, and my name's Travis, but Trevor's what my mom wanted to call me. So you're not far off. My dad, nixed the Trevor discussion. But hey, it was almost there.
All right. Well, do you have more to bring,
Yeah,
Loretta?
I'm just about done with Dylan's memo.
Okay.
IASCD annual conference. The IASCD conference is scheduled for November 7th through 9th at the Riverside Hotel in Boise, and IASCD/ISWCC joint listening session is scheduled for 4 to 5 p.m. on Tuesday, November 7th. This is an opportunity for boards to respond to questions and listen to comments, concerns, suggestions from district supervisors and staff. Even though this is a joint board meeting, because a quorum of your board will be present, we must convene the listening session as a properly noticed commission meeting. For your information, because the IASCD is not a public agency, they are not subject to open meeting law. Except for the listening session, your participation in the rest of conference is optional. Registration packets are not available yet, but be thinking about how many days of conference you want to participate in. Staff will get you the registration information as soon as possible and will coordinate with each of you to ensure your registration and lodging is taken care of. And then Dylan has again provided the commission meeting schedule. And I don't believe it has changed since last meeting.
And Mr. Chair, this is Travis. Loretta, you can actually, for those that want to get their hotel rooms at the Riverside, you can do that now under the room block. Just, you don't have to wait till tomorrow when the conference registration goes live, but it is available. Just call the main hotel line at the Riverside. Say you're coming to the conference, and it's all ready to go for you now. Just FYI on hotels.
Thank you, Travis.
Yeah, and I'm assuming all the commissioners are going to be there. I will be there. who's all, I guess, who's going to attend, who's not going to attend.
So Chairman, this is Blake. For me, the 7th is the only real main conflict that I have. And that may change. When that's the wife's birthday, I make sure that I keep that open.
Yeah.
Smart man.
Chairman, I did say I was not going to be able to make it. We will be in Mexico.
Oh,
I just
sure.
wanted to know again,
What kind of important business are you going to be conducting in Mexico?
No cooking, no cleaning.
Okay. Well, I hope you have a good time.
Well,
No, I'll be there for as many days as needed, and I usually I'm always at them. So yeah.
Mr. Chairman.
I guess. Go ahead, Mitch.
Oh, no, I think I talked over the top of you. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I have nothing
all
to
right.
say.
So I'll plan on being there the 7th and the 8th.
Okay. Was that Wendy?
Yes, I'll be there.
Okay.
I'll be there too.
All right.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I plan to be there too. This is Richard.
Okay. Well, sounds like everybody but Miss Sharpneck will be there in her fun, I'm sure, trip to Mexico. And I'm sure she'll probably rub everybody's nose in, but when she gets back.
I may bring a picture or two.
Yeah,
Mr.
I'm sure you
Chairman,
probably will.
Can I announce that for Division 4, we're going to be in Fairfield. Registration is at 2:00. We begin at 2:30, and it'll be at the Senior Center.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. So Loretta, I guess, are you guys going to take care of our bookings then down there? Do we need to do that and get reimbursed, or how do you want us to do that this year? Usually Crystal always did all this, and I know you guys are a little short, so.
I made notes to follow up with Julie.
Okay.
We'll get them set up.
Okay. Because I'll need to book a flights, and I always get a car. I usually like to have a car down there when I'm down there, so I don't have to rely on somebody else. So I'll be in contact.
Okay.
Very well. Thank you, Loretta. And we'll move on to the fiscal and budget report with Ms. Ziegler.
Thank you. This is warm chair.
It's a hot chair.
Oh, it's getting there.
That was good.
It wasn't hot before, it will be afterwards. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, first, I want to thank all of you for the notes and the words of encouragement, for your understanding of the current challenges that we're working through. The learning curve in Luma and its multiple systems has been steep, and a lot of Luma's capabilities and functionality is still a mystery. I'm unable to present budget to actual financial statements at this meeting. I've been working with the Controller's Office and the Luma team to clean up our beginning balances affected by the implementation. There have been issues with the interagency payment process, P-card and U.S. bank reconciliations, payroll allocations, expense management issues, workflows, just to name a few. We've been submitting tickets to the Controller's Office to resolve issues as they arise, and some tickets get resolved quickly, but we still have some unresolved tickets dating back to July. I will present financial statements as soon as possible after I'm comfortable with the integrity of our data. On September 1st, 2023, the Soil and Water Conservation Commission's fiscal year 25 budget was submitted to the Division of Financial Management and the Legislative Services Office. I'm not going to lie, there were times I didn't think we were going to make the September 1st deadline. There ended up being significant issues with the data related to the conversion. Without the intervention of DFM and SCO collectively working together to correct our information, we would have been unable to submit on time. The commission's 3% increase to the general fund cap this year, or for 25, totaled $104,600. The board approved in a special August meeting to allocate the mandatory cost for personnel and the remaining amount to be allocated as an increase to district match. The final numbers submitted in the budget totaled $29,200 for mandatory personnel cost and $75,400 for an increase to match allocation to the districts. The FY25 budget submittal totaled $20,870 and is summarized below, which is on the next page. And I stand for any significant questions, and if you would like to see the details of the budget, I would be happy to provide you with a copy.
All right. Well, I just want to say we appreciate more than you know all the trials that you've had to go through with this wonderful new program. It sounds like they've implemented or shoved in everybody's face. I appreciate the emails that you've been CCing all of us in on your different DFM contacts. Oh, it's just me? Okay. Well, I appreciate being privy to those and seeing that the responses that you're getting and that you're actually getting, responses back and they're actually working with you. So I appreciate that very much.
Chairman, I specifically included you because of the honorarium challenges and the travel reimbursements. It's a lot of information, and thank you. And I appreciate, I should have probably asked before I started CCing you. There was a follow-up to the last email that went out last night that you would have gotten. I got a response this morning, and they have been changing the workflows unbeknownst to us. So that's what we're looking for. Where I'll just say the challenge is we've gone to trainings. We've been working on this for 4 years, and we've gone to trainings, and we get an outline, and we get these quick reference guides that they tell us are follow this. Have you read that? Have you looked for this? To the point you really search until you just run out of time and energy. Brenda can attest to this. I mean, we really do make a good effort at doing it, but somebody moves our cheese, moves our eggs in the meantime, and it's not being communicated. And that's probably the most frustrating part. And getting emails that are responses to tickets that you shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Right.
And
so you can turn it back around. You can turn it back around and said, well, you shoulda, coulda, woulda had all this figured out before you rolled this ridiculous program out. That's what I would say.
The challenge is that technically we're all messengers in this process. And I actually kind of just get chills, empathy chills for folks in every agency and at the controller's office and DFM and SCO, because we all want to do our best. And this is just bigger than all of us.
Yeah.
And we're all tired. Sounds
to me like there's somebody that dropped the ball on this one big time. So anyways, I'm happy to know that it's not just our agency, it's every agency in the entire state. But nevertheless, this is a boondoggle as far as I'm concerned. the amount of trouble that you people have had to go through to get just the simplest things accomplished. It's ridiculous in my mind. It's just ridiculous. So,
Chairman?
but we appreciate your
Thank you.
willingness to keep going and not to just throw your hands up and walk out the door. You have no idea how much we appreciate that. So
You don't see me when I'm working at home. I do sometimes throw up my hands and go out the back door and throw balls to Kimmy. And it helps. She's my support animal. I do have kind of an update that's, I think, positive. I had a fiscal officer reach out to me from another small agency who has a loan program, which is the Natural Energy and Resource. Louis Conkle, I've known him a long time. And we are working with them. We gave them our insights on our loan program and how we're operating and accounting for that in Luma, which is more than they had, and was very insightful to them. And we decided, because I think we both have been presidents of AGA before, we're going to build our own little coalition of small agencies that work in Mayberry, where you have to do everything. And we're going to pool our resources and we're going to figure this out, because there clearly was not a plan for very small agencies, at least in human resources, that have to touch all these bases, where payroll and human resources is different than the budget person, different from the day-to-day fiscal person, and it's just too much information. That's the biggest challenge.
okay. Well, anyways, we appreciate that. I have one question on looking at this budget. What is the reduction of the 1.696 million in the soil and water conservation 2? I don't follow that one.
Thank you for asking that question. That is the federal funds that we've carried on our budget for NRCS when it was first going to be Build Back Better, and then it was the Inflation Reduction Act. And when it really got down to it, the scope of work that we had set aside for that funding, we were just recently informed that that funding isn't going to fit. So we took off the federal funding for that.
Okay. So it ultimately did not change the budget per se.
Not technically. A couple things that if you look down in the source and you see federal, that's where you'll find the 1.6 million. So you can see how that, kind of relates. The only other, it's kind of behind the scenes, but it's worth mentioning, is the CREP and WACA are one-time funding. They're not part of our base. So that's why the 15 million in 23 appropriation was those 2 years of those two supplementals for the 5 million each for WACPA. And then what's not reflected in the 24 original appropriation is, and it's really, we don't have the WACPA supplemental in that either. So it's just reflected in the 23 right now.
I see. Okay.
But that's our base. If you really wanted to just look at as bare bones, that 4 million is a good number of just our base.
Right. Okay.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Wendy.
So the 3%, am I right that that's the most we can ask for, and so we did? Okay.
Yes.
And then we have to take out mandatory personnel. Can you explain that?
Yes, I can. They, there's increases in health insurance. I don't have the actual breakdown in front of me, but there was, what is it, $700 per employee. So that was one of the increases. The other increase is, and then the fringe, we had a little bit of fringe difference, some changes in, trying to think what it was. Maybe workman's comp. I can't remember exactly. Oh, no, I think it was workman's comp. And then we have to have a placeholder of a 1% CEC, a change in compensation. That's not what we end up giving. We just have to fund the first 10% or the first 1% out of that 3%. Does that make sense?
Well,
So
I guess I'm trying to figure out, so is this for an annual raise? Is that what?
Yes, it is. Now, if the legislature comes back or the governor recommends, I want a 4% across the board, which is a dream, or however they decide to do the change in employee compensation, that's the CEC. We have to, in our budget, have a placeholder, and it's in the form. So when they want to know, we build a 1% in there. So when DFM is using our information, that 1%, if they're going to say, oh, it's going to be 4, well, they plug a 4 in there behind the scenes. This is how I think mechanically they're doing it. So then they know how much of an increase statewide per agency that 4% will have an impact on the general fund. Does that make sense?
So you're saying a raise for the staff is not in this budget except for that 1% placeholder?
Exactly.
Okay.
That 1% will be included in whatever. So let's say it's 4. So technically the from this base number, it would just be that delta of 3% increase would be what you would see our numbers go up to in the budget if it gets through the legislature. Does that make sense? I'm probably getting way too technical, so.
No, that helps.
Okay.
All right. Anybody else have more questions for Melanie?
Thank you, Melanie.
Thank you very much, Melanie. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys for your support. I really appreciate it. We're gonna get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. All right, let's move on to number 8 and look over the minutes from the 17th of August and then the minutes from the 30th. Anybody have anything needs to be changed or concerns?
Nope.
Well, I would look for a motion to approve the August 17th, 2023 minutes.
So made. Motion approved to approve the minutes as read.
Okay, and a motion on the floor.
I second.
And a second from Joan. Any more discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Motion passes. Okay, let's move on to our special meeting for the 23rd, correct? Or 30th, or sorry.
30th.
Is there anything that needs to be changed on that?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the minutes of the August 30th meeting.
All right. There's a motion on the floor to approve the minutes from August 30th.
Second.
Been seconded by Richard. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any
I'm
opposed?
going to abstain. This is Karen Sharpneck. I'm going to abstain since I wasn't there.
Okay. Do we need an actual vote recording, David, for this? Or is that just going to be, okay,
No, everyone's voted. She's abstained. You have a quorum. You're good to go.
okay, okay, sounds good. Thank you. Motion passes. All right. Let's see, we're gonna go back to Miss Loretta.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman Olson. So let's start with the district allocations and match report. Staff recommended match. After reviewing all district financial and match reports, ISWCC staff recommendation of match eligible local support was sent out to all district and supervisors via constant contact on September 1st, 2023. I resolved one inquiry from a district supervisor regarding my recommendation. District allocations work group update. The district allocation work group, the DOG, met via Zoom on September 15th, 2023. Participating DOG members were Tom Daniel from Boundary Soil Conservation District up in Division 1, Julie Burkhart with the Adams Soil and Water Conservation District representing Division 3, Karen Sharpnet with Wood River Soil and Water Conservation District representing Division 4, Jennifer Jensen with Bear Lake Soil and Water Conservation District Division 5, and ISWCC Commissioner Wendy Pratt. The staff appreciate the commitment of the DOG members who help us accomplish the important work of allocating available match funds in a fair and transparent fashion. Prior to the meeting, all district financial and match reports were sent out to the DOG members on flash drives. During the meeting, DOG members reviewed each district report and by voice vote recorded or acted to recommend which of the funds and services received by each district during fiscal year 2023 were eligible to receive state match funding. This year, the match recommendation developed by the DOG is identical to the match recommendation developed by SWCC staff and is attached as 9A1 fiscal year 2023 district match eligibility recommendation, joint DOG and commission staff. After the DOG meeting, the match recommendation was distributed to all districts and they were encouraged to contact commission staff if they had any questions or concerns related to the recommendation. And all that information is for information only. Any questions up until this point? All right, moving right along. Recommended distribution of available fiscal year 24 match funds. For fiscal year 24, $1,508,400 of state general funds were appropriated for distribution to districts. To date, we have dispersed $725,000 as district base and operations allocation, leaving $783,400 available for distribution for district match allocations in October. If you approve the match recommendation presented here, the recommended match fund allocation for each district will be presented in attachment 9A2, recommended district match allocations for fiscal year 24 distribution. So I have attached the dollar figures, how it comes out for this year's fiscal year 24 match. The percent this year is 1.33. In case you're wondering.
May I ask, what was it last year?
1.6.
Okay, thank
So,
you.
and that was because 5 districts didn't, they submitted $0, so at their
Okay.
detriment.
Okay.
It was 1.6. So a few of those districts were able to take advantage of that this year, so it's 1.3. Any questions on the figures?
These are what they submitted based on what their need is, right? On the submitted report.
This is what they submitted as eligible match from their local. It usually comes from the county, city,
sure.
Sometimes individuals, not individuals, but families. A few families donate to districts.
Yeah, and I don't know, Blake, are you familiar with how this works? as far as what the criteria is?
No, so when she asked for recommendations, like, I think Kaja deserves a few extra
I was gonna
thousand.
say, I'll take 50 for
Let's bump it
whatever.
up. I don't like caribou, so let's drop it down. No.
So in order to meet the criteria to make match is it has to be a general donation from an entity or from a group that has a general donation purpose. It can't be for a specific need. If it's for a specific need, it doesn't qualify for match. So any county funding that they get qualifies for match. Any partners that they have with, say, I think up in Clearwater, they have which fish foundation is it? I'm thinking off the top of my head.
Potlatch Deltic or
Yeah, Potlatch. I know in Bonner County, they get money from the Lakes Foundation or Lakes Commission. There's just a bunch of different entities that can qualify for a general donation for match. And if it doesn't meet that criteria, it doesn't qualify for match.
So has this already been verified that all this is qualified for match?
yes, that's what I did originally.
Okay.
And then I
Yeah.
sent my recommendation, and then I present what I came up with to the dog, and we go through the reports
Right.
as the district sent them in. And just, it's according to statute, we can distribute these dollars up to a 2-to-1, but we don't ever have the funds to do 2-to-1, and it's capped at 50,000.
Oh yeah.
So no district can get more than 50,000.
Great.
So yeah, it's kind of interesting. Sometimes I was on the dog for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, and it's kind of interesting to go through and see, what exactly the different districts are doing to qualify for a match funding proposal. And some of them get pretty creative. I'm not gonna lie. Some of them try to pull them through, but sometimes it doesn't work. So, not to disparage them for being creative, but sometimes it's just like, no, that's just not going to work. So anyways, I would suggest if you're interested in this next year to sit in or be included in that process and kind of understand how it works. It's kind of interesting. The flow chart. Have you seen the flow chart on how this all works as far as the process? You should probably show him that, Loretta, because that's
Yeah,
a really.
It was in last month's memo, but I did not include it again in this month.
Okay.
I can send it back out to Blake.
Anyways, is there anybody else has any questions for Loretta on the match funding for
So if 50,000 is the max, Ada and Nez Pierce, is this not the match number then?
No.
6053?
No, that's the eligible.
Okay.
If there were no rules, they had 60,000 eligible.
Wow.
But since the next
I
one,
see.
the next attachment is with the rules applied.
Yeah.
So they only get 50.
Okay.
So, but yes.
Well,
that
good
one
work.
caused confusion last year. So I clarified with Delwyn how to do that one. He said, yes, put the 60 and not the 50.
Good work.
Mr. Chairman, this is David Perkins. Can I add one thing with regard to this issue?
Go ahead.
Delwyn had contacted me regarding one of the districts who disputed the way the commission was allocating the funds under the match program. And my office looked into it, and it's my opinion that the commission is appropriately following Idaho Code Section 222727, which is the section that controls this. And contrary to the allegations that have been made, the districts are getting what is allowed under the contract or under the statute. And I've looked at the numbers, and I just wanted to let the commission know that these follow the statute to the letter. It's capable of being determined with mathematical certainty. And the only question is how much of the county or the other funding that are being matched add up. And once you know that number, the statute is clear. And the commission has done it properly over the years, despite some of the districts wanting different results.
Yes, this is a sore spot for a lot of people, and it's what we have to work with. And I've heard proposals since I've been on this commission of changing it, and nobody seems to really come up with the idea that would work. I know the equitable part of it is it's a every year proposal that comes in through ISCD. Some of those bigger districts that get lots of money, I don't think they're going to be real thrilled about that one. Whereas some of the smaller districts that don't get a lot would be all for it. So it's kind of as convoluted as this kind of gets to be. Sometimes it's about the best way to do things. My biggest complaint with it, and has always been, it says it's in statute to be 2-to-1. Well, they say up to 2-to-1. I really throw the blame at the feet of the legislature because they don't tend to throw enough money for these districts to keep doing what they're doing. So that's my 2 cents on it all, but nevertheless.
Yeah, I can add, I get pretty motivated after going through the process to find a different process. This year was hard. There was a lot of back and forth with districts this year. I don't know what's going on. It could be that we threw 10 million out in the field last year and asked them to implement it, but it was a difficult year getting in the correct paperwork. And Wendy reviewed the forms, and I think her and I are going to work together throughout this year to try to revamp them. Because if we're stuck with this process for now, let's revamp them. Let's make them a little more clear. So she's going to work with me on that. So appreciate Wendy doing that. And I'm going to have a Zoom prior to report submission. I want to have a Zoom training where anybody can Zoom in. We'll go through a report that is done, appropriately, and have a question and answer period ahead of time. So hopefully that will help too.
Well, and Mr. Chairman,
go ahead, David.
Mr. Chairman, the real situation is this commission is bound by the statutory structure. And if the district, the commission doesn't like it, they need to go to the legislature and have the statute amended, because there's nothing this commission can do within its authority beyond what is contained within the statute and the legislative funds that have been allocated. And if there's not enough legislative funds, they have to apply it the way they've done in the past and continue to do it. So it's a legislative problem, and in reviewing it and spending some time considering it and reviewing some of the information, I could see where there could be some tweaks in the statute. But the statute is the statute, and the commission has to comply with the statute.
Yep, absolutely.
So are you saying that if the statute's opened up, we'd actually have to get a bill and actually go through the legislature to actually update the statute then?
Yes.
So once it's opened, it could, okay.
You would have to work with the legislature to get a new bill, to modify, amend, or replace the statute. And it would be through the legislative process, and it would need to be signed by the governor.
Okay, thank you.
I think Wendy has a question, Chairman.
No.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Oh, on there? I mean, you looked at me and said her. What? You said Wendy. Well, you might be looking at. I don't know.
I was gonna ask Wendy what her thoughts were, since this is her first time doing it. How much of an eye opener it was for her.
Well, it was good. I mean, I learned a lot. I guess the only thing I have is, I wonder, some of the districts maybe they just need a little more training, and I don't know if that's the commission's job or the association job, but I think maybe some of them are missing some opportunity that some of the other districts have figured out, and they're legitimate costs. Like, for instance, one district uses donated meeting space as a match. And I wonder if any other districts maybe do that from time to time, or, and maybe maybe they should be aware of that. Anyway, it was very informative.
Yes. Yes, I was quite eye opened as well as when I started doing it. So I guess what we need is a motion to approve or disapprove the fiscal year 24 district allocation match funds.
Chairman, Melanie has a comment before we.
Okay, go ahead, Melanie.
I just wanted to kind of solidify what we asked for in our 25 budget. That $75,400 would increase if the governor makes the recommendation and it passes the legislature, it will increase our match allocation funding to $858,800, which if there were level funding, that's about 17,000 and change per district.
Right.
So I think, well, I know Delwyn's been committed, and you all have been committed to increasing those match funds to get it closer to a 2-to-1, which would be what, 2.5 million, right? 250 would be million, wouldn't it? No, it'd be 2.5 million, right? Would be 100% 2-to-1. $50,000 times 50 districts is 2.5 million.
They don't all submit 50,000 ineligible.
I know, but if this is back to what David was saying about legislative, is if we keep moving and increasing that, one of these days we might get 2.5 million if we think that way, right? That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. I haven't done the figure this year, but I believe last year we were 256,000 short from matching the current support, local support last year.
Right.
So we're getting close, at least to do 2-to-1 to what they submit to us. And that 70,000 will help.
So what happens? Well, so we would have to be, our cap is 2.5 million at 50,000. If everybody submitted that, right?
And that's just for their match. Then they have the base.
Yeah. So what happens if we do get to the 2-to-1?
We could get there. But
what do you do with the excess?
Well, I don't know.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's never happened.
Okay.
That never happened. Ever. So
I guess we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Yeah, I'd like to figure that one out. I'd like to have that problem at our feet to figure out. So no, that's never happened.
We're getting closer.
This is the quandary that everybody gets into every year, as far as, changing the funding structure and going away from a 2-to-1 match and going to a flat $50,000 base funding for every district every year. And I don't know, there's pros and cons each ways. I think that I remember Steve Becker brought forth the proposal a couple of years ago with the association to do such a project and make it on basically a 3-year prove yourself kind of a trial. So you get $50,000 a year, and at the end of the 3 years, you have to basically come before the legislature and show what you have accomplished with that. If it's $50,000 in a 3-year period, $150,000, what did you accomplish with it, to basically prove yourself to the legislature to continue with that? I'm not opposed to something like that. And in the meantime, do away with the match funding altogether. I don't like it, to be honest with you, because they never ever fund it the way it's supposed to be funded, as far as I'm concerned. And it just hamstrings these smaller districts, don't have the ability, don't have the partners available to get this monies available to do the match funding. You look at, say, Ada County, or you look at Nez Perce, and you look at Latah and Ada. You have all these different partners, and they can achieve that high number year after year after year after year. And districts like ours, or some of the smaller ones down in the southeast corner, they don't have the partnerships available to make that happen. So it's kind of figuring out what's the equitable balance for every district. But it also, I think, comes down to each district being able to perform at that level. So, it's kind of a double-edged sword. It's just, the districts want this money. Okay, well, fine. Prove yourself and make it worthy to achieve that level of funding. So I don't know. I don't know what the best answer is. Anyways.
So correct me if I'm wrong. Loretta, did you say that there was a few districts who didn't submit a report at all?
Last year, there were several that
This year.
didn't. No, that's right. That was last year. There were 5 districts that they didn't get their county funding in the correct time period, and so they had 0 local dollars for their report. So that's why the percent, it was 1.6 to 1 last year, because 5 districts didn't get any match. But then they did submit this year, so we're at 1.3 to 1.
So every district submitted a request this year?
Yes, everybody, all
Okay.
50, submitted something this year.
All right. Well, let's get a motion on the floor for this. What we're gonna do. Don't jump right up and do it.
Mr. Chairman. I'll try to talk. I will move that we approve the recommended district match allocations for fiscal year 24 distribution.
All right. I have a motion on the floor.
Second.
It's been seconded by Mr. Savage. Thank you, Richard. Any more discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none. Motion passes. All right. That's about it for this fine day, is it not?
Mr. Chairman, can I add one thing to the meeting?
You go right ahead, David.
Since I'm talking more today than I ever do, because the issues that have been before the committee are issues I work with daily, I just wanted to give everybody notice, if you haven't seen the news, and this is going to affect all of the districts eventually, but quagga mussels have been identified in the Snake River down by Twin Falls. And it's the first time that they've been identified in Idaho that in our waterways, as opposed to on watercraft that are coming into the state. And the state has known about it for a short period of time. They're in the process of attempting to figure out what to do with it, but just looking at what's happened in other states and other jurisdictions, that may become a problem for water users and water districts in pumping water and municipalities in pumping water. And as they spread, which they're likely to do downstream on the Snake, this is a new problem for Idaho waterways. And there's not any really great solutions that I've heard of yet. And I've been listening to the discussions in our office, the Natural Resource Division of the Attorney General's office, on how they can adopt something, because the statutes are designed to prohibit them from coming into the state. But once they're in the state, the legislation is not necessarily appropriately designed for that. So just so you know, that's in the system, it's a problem, and all of the downstream between Shoshone Falls to the Pacific Ocean is perhaps in jeopardy if Idaho Department of Agriculture can't figure out a way to stop the spread now that they've been identified in the system. So I just wanted to throw that out because it's going to affect the districts and it's going to affect the costs of water. And I just wanted everybody on the commission to be aware that that's happening and it's real current news.
Mhm. It was just a matter of time, honestly.
Is it moved? Is it still there?
They don't know.
They don't know if it
No,
actually.
the Idaho Department of Agriculture has the stations that check
Yeah,
people
mhm.
when they come into the state.
Yeah.
They also have a water quality monitoring process. And as part of that process, they identified the larval stage of these mussels. And the mussels, when they're in the larval stage, as I understand it, and I'm not a biologist, but I've read up about it, just given the implications it could have for some of my clients, the larval stages flow with the water. So they're sitting there floating in the water like a fly on the surface, except they're in the water. And then they develop a shell, and then they attach to the sewer systems and the water intakes, and they get in the pumps, and it's going to be a real problem for downstream energy projects, the dams, but for water, irrigators, agriculture, it's going to change the way they do business like it has back east in Michigan and some of the places that have been dealing with this mussel for quite a while. So far, nobody's identified the zebra mussel, but it's a matter of probably when, if not if, that we're going to have to that issue as well. So sorry to be bearer of great news, but I did want everybody to know because you're going to be hearing about it from your districts and you're going to be hearing about it from constituents. And at least you ought to be aware that, yes, that's a true thing. It's not just a rumor. They did Department of Agriculture did a public statement earlier this week. I think it was yesterday or the day before. And that's the first time the public's been notified that this invasive species is now in Idaho's waterway. If you look into them, they really are problematic. They changed the ecosystem and they are sharp little edged shells that ruin beaches, and they clog pumps and they clog intake valves and they clog turbines, and it's going to be really expensive for Idaho Power for sure. And the Department of Agriculture says they're working to mitigate these creatures between Shoshone Falls and somewhere just up downstream from Twin Falls, but I wouldn't be counting on it if it were me. If I were a rancher or farmer on the Snake, I'd be a bit concerned about how I was going to screen my water intake valves so that they don't ruin my pumps or they don't ruin my irrigation systems. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention. Sorry about that.
That's my area.
Yeah. But you should
This is
know.
the first time I've heard of it. So
Right.
I'm
Yeah, no,
flabbergasted.
you should know about these things.
Right. Yeah, all the complaining that everybody did about having their boat checked coming into the state. Yeah. It was kind of one of those things. It's a matter of time. Just because they've moved eastward from the Great Lakes region for the last decade, 2 decades, whatever it's been. So
The problem the Department of Agriculture is going to have, just looking at it from a macro perspective, is when watercraft, duck hunters, fishermen are fishing on the Snake during that river, and then they decide to go to Payette Lake and fish. Right now, the way they're dealing with the containment is they're shut down boat rounds and in the section of river that they found them while they do the investigation, and they're adding more check stations. So if you take a boat through that section right now, you're required to get state inspected to make sure that you're not moving it to the Clearwater or the Salmon or any other waterway that's potentially going to be affected. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
More money to spend. Anyways, I'd take a motion to adjourn if we're done for the day.
I'll second that.
Um,
I know, I'll make a motion to adjourn. I got excited, sorry.
I think you pulled the trigger just a little bit quick there, Karen.
second the motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All right, Loretta, is it possible for you to get me that Mike Myers number? I got a couple questions dealing with pumps that I'd like to pick his brain about, if it's possible. If you could
Sure.
text it to me or email it to me or something.
I will get that for you.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Well, everybody have a good day. It's good to see you. Well, that's our next meeting. We'll see you down in Boise.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah. Everybody have a good
Okay.
time at their division meetings too.
You want to stop recording?
Well, it was 2 hours.